Well, here we are with another fine episode of Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood. Today we're going to throw a bit of old school drag racing stuff out there for everybody. We're going to be painting the interior of these valve covers with a product called Glyptal. Glyptal is a paint that some may be familiar with and some may not be familiar with. I have no idea. I just figured that anything on a Buick, the faster you can return the oil to the pan, the more possibility you have of making sure that you have oil on your bearings. So what I'm doing today is I'm painting the interior of these valve covers with Glyptal, and it's more or less, if you're not familiar with Glyptal, it's a red enamel paint that racers have used for years, but it's more or less like a wet banana for motor oil. And I've used it in other things. The inside of these cylinder heads, if you looked at them, they're red, and that's a Glyptal paint. But I'm going to do it on the bottom of these valve covers. And I'm doing it for two reasons really. One is to return the oil to the pan quicker, right? The less oil that adheres to the valve cover surface, which is not doing me any good, and the faster it returns to the pan, the better it's going to be. The other reason is I found that Glyptal really is the best surface you could possibly have for RTV. It will not come off. It would rather destroy your oil pan or valve cover or whatever to try to remove the Glyptal or the RTV from the Glyptal. The two adhere together like unbelievably. And because of my, we'll call it unstellar welding and craftsmanship on these valve covers, I'm not a fabricator, I'm not a welder, I'm sure there's some pinhole leaks in here, and instead of having motor oil running around on the outside of the motor, I'd rather have it running around on the inside of the motor. So what we're going to do is set it up and ready to go. So I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to get started. Okay, here we are, folks, our fine Glyptal product. I hadn't seen this for a long time, but I found it's available at Eastwood. Now, a lot of racers, there's two feelings amongst racers for Glyptal. Yay, Glyptal, or the other one is that, man, you really need a clean surface for that to adhere to. Otherwise, it ends up in the filter. Okay, so clean surface is like sandblasted surface, right? That's the best that you're going to possibly do, is have it to the point where it adheres well because you got a fresh, clean surface. It's been blasted clean. It can't really get any cleaner. I mean, you can see a little overspray from where I painted these valve covers, but that's really about it. Now, we are going to clean it up before we even start. But what I did is I went ahead and taped it off on the areas that we don't want to get Glyptal, like on the exterior of the valve cover. I'm more or less trying to get it on the interior because that's what I'm focused on. And then taking it off the outside without ruining the paint on the outside is probably going to be a bit difficult. So, but we're going to start off with cleaning it with our best friend. And since this is Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood, our best friend Acetone. Hello everyone, this is Acetone. So I use this for cleaning just about everything. I mean, there isn't a surface that it won't really clean up. Sorry, I need to grab a screwdriver for this. So first things first, we open them up and spread them on a rag. So my handy dandy blue paper towels here. Hopefully you've had a chance to watch the previous video where we completed the rocker arms. I was pretty happy with getting them finished, but I think I'm going to go back and revisit some of the shimming on there. I don't believe it to be the best. So, okay, so first things first, you just want to wipe down the interior, try to get off as much any type of oil or grease. In this case, since it's already been sandblasted, there's virtually nothing left. I'm going to try to get off some of this overspray, or at least tack it up, because I don't know how well it's going to impact the adhering properties of the
the Glyptol, but I doubt it would do much of anything since it's such a small amount, and it's not really like a nice finish. So it's really just overspray. All right. Now this valve cover, I've already taken the time. It's already been welded, and I hammered and dollied quite a bit of the dents out. It's not going to be perfect. I'm starting off with 60-year-old junk, just like hopefully just about every one of you are. But I mean, I wouldn't really. I'd say that it's junk, but most of it is hard to find parts, or just leftover stuff. I like working with leftover stuff, to be honest with you, because it's the stuff that nobody really wants. It doesn't cost anything, and then you can really work your magic with it. And if it gets damaged, oh well, it was just leftover stuff. Throw it in the trash. I mean, if it turns out nice, great. That's what you were shooting for. So there we are. We're all cleaned up. Now we'll go ahead and open up the Glyptol. I've already shaken it up, so it should be fairly mixed. We'll see when we get the lid off. Now I haven't used this in probably, oh dang, a year. And pretty much this one quart's lasted me for 2-3 years now. So it doesn't, a little bit goes a long ways. All right, so there's your red color. It will dry a little bit more, less of a sheen to it. It'll be more of a flat color, but all right, so I like to use the foam brushes because the foam brush, one, they're cheap as dirt, and two, you can kind of squeeze stuff in places where you don't normally get a regular brush. Plus, when you're talking the interior of a motor, sometimes the horsehair brushes will lose hairs, and the last thing I want is one of those hairs getting in the motor. So usually you'd want to do like, say, 2 coats with this, but we'll see how it works out with just one so far. I know it's probably going to be fairly thin. This stuff is not going on real difficult, but it's not real thick either. And I know that you're virtually watching paint dry at this point. And I know that Tony did a live of paint drying for that Hemi motor. I did watch it for a little while. The commentary was probably worth more than the value of the pictures, but or the video. But it was a good time. They had a really good time, I guess, that weekend. I kind of wish I would have been there. All right, so Glyptoled up. And the whole point, like I said, return the oil faster to the pan. Lose less of it on hanging out inside the motor on little things like the top of the valve cover or an area that's not really lubricating anything. You know, that's why the interior of the cylinder heads was done, just because when it gets, after it's fallen off of the after the oil has fallen off of the valve spring, it really serves no purpose being up in the head. So it was to return it to the pan faster. If you looked at the lifter valley on that engine, it's the lifter valley itself was deburred and distressed, and that's another thing to return oil faster to the pan. Now I could paint Glyptol in there, but when I got the block, I didn't feel it had been cleaned enough to try to put Glyptol inside. So I just left it as was, and you know, I'll take my chances, I guess. But every little bit counts. So this is the whole point of when you are a like, more or less you see it in heads-up drag racing than anywhere, but you'll see 1 horsepower here, 1 horsepower there, 2 horsepower here, 2 horsepower there, and then next thing you know, they all add up, and you're making 40 more horsepower. That's kind of how this whole oil deal is for me, returning the oil to the pan faster, making it lubricate better. All of those little things add up so that you can fix I think that really the only issue with the Buick engines was the limitations on oiling, and it's really not that bad on the small block. It probably got worse on the 350. The 215 had some fairly small mains, and it didn't need a lot of oil. The 300s, they have larger mains, but it's not all that drastic. Now, when you get to the 350, they're just like every other 300 or 350 or whatever cubic inch motor that you got. 351 Windsor, it actually has the same size main bearings as the 351 Windsor, 3-inch diameter. Now the big block, it goes even bigger. I think it's 3.5-inch mains, but the big block itself has the inherent problem of the mains moving around, I think. And that's the big problem with those. And I have a big block. I think it would be neat to put in this super stocker, but I get a weight break for it, matter of fact, and you could have more cubic inches and more horsepower for less penalty of weight, less weight penalty, I guess I should say. The biggest problem I found with the big blocks is that, man, do they chew up the main bearings, and I think a lot of it has to do with the block weakness. It was a thin wall casting from General Motors, and it was one of the very first few thin wall castings, kind of like a 302 Ford is a thin wall casting. The small block, the Windsor small block, is a thin wall casting. So is the small block Buick. But the big block, they really went overboard, and they took a lot of the meat out of the block itself, especially in the main area for the main bearings and the caps. If you notice, the small block is like a Y block design, and the big block, not so much. It doesn't have the skirting of the block going down folding the mains. That's what I think is the benefit of the small block. Let's see if we can get this all covered in one coat. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like big block Buicks. They're just like, the amazing part about them is just like the small block. It has something to do with port velocity through the head, where they make unbelievable amounts of torque for what they really are. And I was very impressed when I put one in a pickup truck in my 3/4 ton Suburban. It turned out to be one of the best tow rigs I've ever had, especially for the price. I don't go out and search out these Buick engines. My father passed away in 2017, and he had hoarded some big blocks like you wouldn't believe. There was a total of 16 engines. One of them was a Ford 302, and one of them was a small block Chevrolet. But the rest of them were Buick 455 and 350. And those are, I've been building these for a while now. Just at first I was going to do it just to flip them, and that's still kind of the plan. I didn't want to have them all sitting, and I definitely didn't want to take them to the salvage yard, as some of the other people had recommended. Just because they haven't made the big block since '76, and the small block hasn't been made since '81, doesn't mean that they're junk. It just means that they're old technology, and sometimes old is better, especially in the world of cars and today's equipment. But I know you're just sitting there watching me paint. I feel like I'm Bob Ross a little bit here. But I just put some happy little trees over here. Slow and steady wins the race. All right. Well, hey, I've been getting a lot of feedback. People really like what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue to do it if you like it or not. So I thought there was just enough people interested in it, and the Buick is kind of an oddball engine, there's not a lot of people that's building them. There's especially not a lot of machinists that specialize in them. And I've been fairly lucky. I wouldn't say I have a machinist that specializes in them, but I do have a machinist that's a good machinist. So now this small block, this super stock motor, they did not machine. When I bought this short block, it kind of came up on one of the Buick Facebook pages, and the guy was getting out of Buicks, and I'm just going to run LS's, and so he decided to sell this motor, and I decided to jump all over it. I figured I couldn't duplicate it for the price, so I snapped it up, and I was wanting to do really a 300. In my opinion, the 300 is the best small block Buick, just because of the main bearing size. The block is rigid, just like the 350. It'll handle 800 horsepower, and it's really, really lightweight. Lightweight goes a long ways. It's one thing that people are kind of unaware of these Buicks. The small block Buick weighs 150 pounds less than a Chevrolet small block. That already puts you a tenth and a half faster if all other things are equivalent, right? Now, we know, okay, the Buick doesn't make the kind of power a Chevrolet small block does unless you spend a lot of money. And there's so many more parts available for the small block Chevy. Doesn't make it a better choice in my opinion, because it is one heavy engine. Gosh, the thing is, it actually, here's a little bit of trivia for you. The small block Chevy weighs 25 pounds less than the 455 Buick. So that gives you an idea of how heavy it is, or how light the Buick 455 is. It's your interpretation, I guess, of how you want to look at it. But that is one lightweight engine compared to the rest, because the big block Chevy is way heavier. So when I put that, when I put the 455 and the 85 Suburban, I didn't even have to change the springs. So that's something to look forward to if you have a Chevrolet you're trying to repower. Consider a big block Buick. You'll be happy with the torque, especially if it's a truck. Now, if you remember at the beginning of the video, I did say I was doing some of this because RTV likes to stick to it really, really well. Like, there is nothing on the level I've ever seen that RTV likes to stick to more than Glyptal. I have no idea why. It has to do something with the makeup, I'm sure, of what this stuff is. But man, I built an engine for a guy last year. We called it Jack the Giant Killer. It was a 300 cubic inch Buick. And I had fabricated an oil pan for this motor last year, and windage tray and all that stuff. And I had actually put it on the motor. It was done, ready to rock and roll, with the exception of the heads and rock arms being completed. And come to find out, when I picked up this 63, it is a mid-sump pan car. It's got what they call rear steer. It's where you're steering, your drag link is behind the cross member or the K member for you Mopar folks. And the Buicks, especially the small blocks, there was only a few of them made that were mid-sump. The 215 is one of them, and the oil pan is not interchangeable with any of the other small blocks. And then the 300. And so I had to find a 300 oil pan, and I ended up taking that pan I had fabricated off and put it on Jack the Giant Killer. And I had a heck of a time getting it off. I was literally like needing a tow truck to pull the oil pan off the motor. It was stuck on there so well. But Glyptal What a fascinating product. Now, like I said, if this is your daily, you're trying to do this for cruising on the weekend car, this is probably not a paint that you would want to use. This, one, it takes too much time. Two, it does have the ability to flake off and end up in the oil paint or in the filter, or however you want to look at it. All right, so here we go. There we go. She's getting there. Right? A few more strokes with the brush, and we'll be kicking ass like Chuck Norris. So. And what I was trying to do was, if I paint this area where the weld seam is at here, I should be able to put some RTV in there and it'd adhere really, really well. And that would seal up any oil leaks I might have because of my porous welding, we'll call it. I'm not a welder, I'm not a fabricator. And I thought, filling it full of JB Weld would kind of look corny, and maybe if some of that stuff came off, it might have a chance of plugging it up. And then I remembered the oil pan situation, and I thought, well, if I put Glyptol on the inside of this valve cover, and then I put RTV around this seam, there's no way in hell it's going to fall off. You would virtually have to have some kind of crazy explosion to knock it off. The interior of this valve cover. It is, like I said, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen RTV stick to anything like this stuff. So if the RTV seals up the cracks and we don't have any worse looking valve cover, no, bring me ahead. I already had the Glyptol and I already got RTV, so what do I got to lose? Maybe some time? I seem to have plenty of that. Haven't you ever noticed that when you have, you want to do something, you either have no money and tons of time, or no time and tons of money? And that's kind of where I'm at now. And then, I'm like, this just seems to be the way life goes anymore. You never have both at the same time. If you do, you're probably like Elon Musk or something. If you're just a regular working class Joe, you think your way around the problem. All right, well, we're just about to the end of this, and this is going to be the end of today's video. I'm actually doing two things at the same time. I just spray painted the other valve cover after I'd finished welded it and ground down the welds because I'm such an amazing welder. But, I am self-taught, so I guess there is that going for me. Alright, so this is what we're looking like. Get a basic idea of how it's going to turn out. We'll have to see how it is finished up and hardens up tomorrow and sets up. I know it normally looks like a mirror when you're done, regardless of the thickness or what you apply it with. This stuff, it lays out really well. I don't know what the difference between this and regular enamel paint is, but there's something in there that makes it extremely different. All right, so here's your motor oil wet banana. Glyptol. All right, well, that's going to be it for today. I know you just stuck around, and if you watch me paint this, it probably wasn't too exciting. But hopefully I threw out some fun facts and interesting pieces out there for you. If you've got any questions, comments, or concerns, just leave a comment. Yeah, until next time, maybe tomorrow, we'll do something else. I'll see you later.